look at the light as it shines forth in darkness. And so you see throughout the world, and maybe especially in the northern hemisphere now, you see celebrations of Hanukkah and celebrations of Advent and winter solstice, and not too long ago, Diwali, and coming up Kwanzaa. All of these world traditions recognize that in our spiritual unfolding and in our lives, there's this essence where we call in the light. And as human beings, and we live on planet Earth, we really just feel into that need to shine light into the darkness. So we have this celebration tonight, Loss and Light. And we want to take time as we move through Advent and move into the Christmas season and New Year, times where we start turning on lots of lights and lots of celebration. We want to take a moment to pause and just recognize, as part of our spiritual journey, there's also a time to just recognize the truth that there's also darkness. And even in that darkness, there's light. But to acknowledge that, there's darkness too. It's part of our life's journey, and part of our spiritual path is to recognize it and also see the light. And we know it's as 2021 sort of winds down and we look at 2022, boy, there's a lot of things to consider when we think of this topic, loss and light. A second year of the global pandemic, and lots of things have happened that have changed what we once thought was normal. Things that we held on to that we've had to let go and say, that's just something that was lost to us this year. Whether it's a loss in what we plan to do, a loss in activity, a loss maybe this year in a great expectation for a relationship, or something we thought might happen for this Christmas or New Year's, or even a loss of some area in our consciousness where we thought, this was something about me, and it's been a long year, and I'm not seeing that aspect of myself. So we ask, at this point, consider for yourselves maybe one thing or a number of things, whatever it might be, that is on your heart tonight. Something that you recognize as, this was a loss for the year. Just to name it, just to acknowledge it, just to let it be there, and not hidden away in the consciousness to be ignored, but brought to the surface, and just hold it to spirit and say, here it is, God. Here's something that I have felt as a loss. I bring it with me tonight into this time together. So welcome to our service, and welcome JP for your music.
From me, with love to you. Little girl cuddled Swaddled in clothing, lays outside, makes her angel in the snow. And around the corner and down the street, the boys pack the snow real neat. They made a new friend. A young couple embraced in a sleigh ride. The promise of love lights the night with Yuletide. With Yuletide. It's that time of the year for a miracle or two. Here's to me and you. Here's to the star that fell from the sky. I picked it up, I put it high upon the Christmas tree. And my gift is my song. I'll sing it loud for you. Every tear of joy in my eye tell the truth. From me with love to you. A young man who's been away for years comes home to find love still warm in his mother's tears. Oh, my baby's home. Look, Dad, your son is home. Hold him tight, let him know you missed him night and day. At times we feel alone. The night rings out with Christmas cheer. Newborn eyes will witness the birth of a new year. Birth of a new year. It's that time of the year for a miracle or two. Here's to me and you. Here's to the star that fell from the sky. I picked it up, put it high upon the Christmas tree. My gift is my song. I'll sing it loud for you. Every tear of joy in my eye tell the truth. From me with love to you. One more thing before I go. Face the night, the bitter cold of the Christmas snow. Come warm yourself by our Christmas fire, and I'll share with you my one and only desire is to let you know I love you. My gift is my song. I'll sing it loud for you. With a tear of joy in my eye, tell the truth. From me with love to you. From me with love to you. Jingle bell.
So we have 3 reflections tonight on our theme, loss and light, moments to remember. And this first reflection is called Living from the Inside Out. And I want to share with you a piece that comes from the Beatitudes of Jesus. And we know them in the translation we have from the Greek. It's, blessed are those who mourn, they shall be comforted. But looking back, if you take in the words that Jesus probably would have said, if you look at it in the Aramaic that Jesus spoke, it probably sounded something like, Tu boyun lalwe, dechanon nekarun, tu boyun lalwe, dechanon nekarun. And a translation of that would be, how ripe you are when you wander in mourning. You shall be welcomed home in the open arms of love. Little different. I love your second verse of the song about the person coming home for Christmas and being welcomed, open-hearted, after having been gone. And what this beatitude encourages us, I mean, think about it for a second. It says how ripe you are, how ready you are, how, juicy, ready to be gobbled up you are, how perfectly beautiful you are when you wander in mourning. Sometimes I think our culture tends to almost like if someone seems to be in mourning, it's like, oh, it's okay. Let's not go there. Maybe with a sense of trying to be kind, we almost discourage this movement into acts of mourning. And yet what the master teacher Jesus taught us was, you're ripe, you're blessed, you're ready when you wander in your mourning. Then you'll be brought home, welcomed home in the open arms of love. So mourning is a positive thing. It's a healthy thing. It's a sacred thing. And it's not to say that it creates an image of living a life necessarily of some sort of chronic sadness. That's not the point at all. It's that recognizing there is darkness and that we can bring a light into it. In our internal activity, we can take these things that we might be mourning and actually embrace them, wander in them. I feel like it's, you have this field or this forest that's mourning, and you walk through it and you take it in and you observe it. What's interesting is that when you listen to this encouragement to mourn, sometimes I ask myself, if there's nothing right now that's apparent to me that I need to be mourning, that I am mourning, maybe I should pause for a second and think of what it might be, because it is a blessed thing to mourn. As a matter of fact, in some ways we might say, if we're not paying detailed attention to a lot what's going on in the world, well, maybe we wouldn't be mourning, but to really see around us a lot that's happening, it almost invites us to say, take a moment, wonder in this, and mourn it. Even to the point, I call them like micro mournings, like it could be a little thing, but acknowledge that too. Bring it in, wander in it, because it's in the embracing of it, acknowledging of it, saying it's true, is that we can then bring a blessing to it, that we then bring it into the open arms of love, the embrace of the divine. I was reading a local paper, it's a Whatcom County something that comes out once a month, and they had this article about the orcas out in Bellingham Bay, and that one of the sort of micro-species is endangered, and they're not seeing the health of this pod of orca whales. It's like, oh God, I don't want to hear that again. I don't want, it's like another thing to look at and go, I want good news. I want to hear abundance of whales and salmon. And I read that news, and what do you do with it? Well, the first thing I did with it is said, let me just take that in and acknowledge and bring it to that inner temple and say, here it is. This is something that just strikes me as a thing to be mourned. Now, what to do about that's another question, but I'm pausing on this theme, which is take it in. And it's only in that taking it in that the warm, loving arms embrace us. So how would be a way to take it in? Well, internally in consciousness, of course. But it made me think, next time at the ocean, I'm going to wander along the beach and send a blessing out to the waves and say, I feel it. I hear it. I hear you. It's the first thing I need to do is bring it into my consciousness so that Spirit can hold it and energize it and lead me on to something that's positive to do about it. But we need to live from the inside out. So take a moment, if you would, maybe just close your eyes. We're just going to take one moment on this first theme of bringing what is alive to us, that we can bring this into the very temple of our hearts, that we can acknowledge it, that we can wander with it or wonder about it, and know that it will be blessed in spirit, that then it can be brought into the open arms of love. Tu boyun lawale, teharon dit karun.
Look at the tree-lined mountain, see souls of the dead and living beneath one sky, a blue fitted sheet with puffs of billow cloud.
Compassion. A young mother holding her dead baby in her arms went to the holy man in the village, asking him, please, please, can you bring my baby back to life? He said, yes, I can help you. Tell me, she said, what must I do? Tell me. He said, you must go and find a home and ask for a grain of rice from a home who has not known death, not known loss. She hurried and scurried to the next house in the village, and when the person opened the door, she said, tell me, do you have a grain of rice? The holy man has sent me saying that he can help bring my child back to life. Do you have a grain of rice? Oh, yes, said the person, and he went to get it and came back. She said, oh, she remembered. But tell me, have you experienced loss in your home? He said, oh, yes. 2 months ago, my wife died. And so she said thank you and hurried to the next home and again knocked on the door. And this time a woman answered and she said, oh, do you have a grain of rice? You see my dead child in my arms. The holy man said he'd help me bring it back to life with a grain of rice. And she remembered this time, have you known death in your home, loss? She said, why, yes. About a year ago, my brother died. Oh, said the young mother. And she went to her final third house and said, please, please, the holy man will bring my child back to life. I just need a grain of rice. But have you experienced loss or death in your life, your home? Yes, said the man. My mother died. My brother, yes, I've lost a loved one. And in that moment, the young mother went home and began her grieving. So loss, we're talking about compassion. Loss is a common experience, isn't it? And so with that loss comes our understanding for ourselves and another to have compassion and to share that in our understanding. So tonight, let's just take a moment of reflection with this affirmation. I am one with a compassionate universe. I am a light of love in the world. I am one with a compassionate universe. I am a light of love in the world.
Look at that tree-lined mountain, see souls of the dead and living beneath one sky, a blue fitted sheet with puffs of pillow cloud.
Now we take time to consider how resilience is unfolding and actually blessing our lives. Resilience is a divine attribute that supports our wholeness. It brings us to a place of peace for our losses. Now, loss implies change. And what we thought would be has now changed. It's important to remember that change is one of the constants in the universe. Change is always happening. Change may come quickly, but the transition takes time, passing from how it was through loss and into the new. We find ourselves in a period of disorder, the transition period. But time brings resilience, but we cannot rush it. Resilience is our ability to bounce back after something happened, either expected or unexpected. But we may often put pressure on ourselves or expectations to bounce right back up like a jack-in-the-box. But sometimes we just need to nurture ourselves and lick our spiritual wounds. Healing can take time, but using spiritual tools that we have, like prayer, meditation, journaling, qigong, walks in nature, through that we can express more resilience. In consciousness, we stay connected with the truth of the ever-present loving mind of God, working in us, through us, and with us. And that's no matter what the circumstances. There's only one presence, one power in this universe, and we are one with it. And we deny any apparent evil in our lives. Any experience of loss and grief is simply part of our unfolding spiritual path. It leads us into the deepest and highest expression of our goodness and the goodness of God. Now, during times of loss, sometimes it feels hard to be connected to the truth of who we are, that inner truth of the oneness and the love. But we can have courage to look at the losses and our grief and our pain and trust that we can accept the lessons that have come for us. They can conquer us, but they can never defeat us. It's important to recognize our resilience. It doesn't make everything better, but it makes everything not wrong. We don't flee from the changed circumstance, and we are stronger for going through it. So in unity, we know that loss, pain, and grief do not have power over us, for we are resilient in spirit. And so let's close our eyes and reflect on, and reaffirm that I live with an openness to life, wonder, possibilities, creativity, and challenges. For I am resilient and one with the all-knowing mind of God. So just take a moment in silence. And once again, we affirm, I live with an openness to life, wonder, possibilities, creativity, and challenges. For I am resilient and one with the all-knowing mind of God.
Look at that tree-lined mountain, see souls of the dead and living beneath one sky, a blue faded sheet with puffs of pillow cloud. Look at that tree-lined mountain, see souls of the dead and living beneath one sky, a blue faded sheet with puffs of pillow cloud.
So, I'm honored to get to read this, and I thank you, Frank, for allowing me to do a part of today. I'm going to read Psalms 193, lines 3 through 12. You know when I leave and when I get back. I'm never out of your sight. You know everything I'm going to say before I start the first sentence. I look behind me and you are there. Then up ahead and you're there too. Your reassuring presence coming and going. This is too much. It's too wonderful. I can't take it all in. Is there any place I can go to avoid your spirit? To be out of your sight? If I climb to the sky, you're there. If I go underground, you're there. If I flew on morning's wing to the far western horizon, you'd find me in a minute. You're already there waiting. Then I said to myself, oh, he even sees me in the dark. At night, I'm immersed in the light. It's a fact. Darkness isn't dark to you. Night and day, darkness and light, they're all the same to you.
Come one, come all, to the glory of love, with the light shining above. Said the night wind to the little lamb, do you see what I see? Shining in the night, little lamb. Do you see what I see? A star, shining in the night, with a tail as big as a kite. With a tail as big as a kite. The shepherd to that shepherd boy, do you hear what I hear? Ringing in the night, shepherd boy. Do you hear what I hear? A song, high above the tree, with a voice as big as the sea. With a voice as big as the sea. Said the shepherd boy to the mighty king, do you know what I know? Warm in your palace, mighty king. Do you know what I know? A child shivers in the cold. We must bring him silver and gold. We must bring him silver and gold. Come on to the glory of love, with the light shining above. Come on to the glory of love, the light shining above. Said the mighty king to his people everywhere, listen to what I say. Pray for peace, my people everywhere. Listen to what I say. A child born upon this night, he will bring us goodness and light. He will bring us goodness and light. Come on to the glory of love. Share the light shining above.
I was thinking as you were singing the loss that Mary and Joseph might have felt. We can't be home, we need to travel, we're having a baby away, we don't have a place to stay, and yet they embrace that, and on the other side, their resilience, they bring goodness and light, just embracing in that difficulty. Thank you, JP, tonight for your music. Reverend Deidre, Andrew, for coming out and sharing your gifts. Cherise, for that beautiful rendition of the psalm. I heard it for the first time again in your reading. It's beautiful. For our production team, Jane and Jay Scott and Jim, I think are all back there. Janae, Diane, and Rosemary for setting up, and for all of you who showed up this evening, and all of you on the YouTube who took part and shared your warmth and your energy and your experiences and your, being here in your presence, and the very presence that as a community we can be in these moments together. And so as we end the service, just maybe look around the room one last time and see that even in the darkness there is a light, and even in our loss and in our sorrow and the times that are most difficult, this very temple of our being represented by this very church that we're in, it always resonates with the light of love, of spirit. We can be transformed, we can be compassionate, and we can find our resilience. And so we end with a blessing, and knowing that Spirit is here, the divine presence is here working around us, and working through each other in our community and manifesting in each one of us in our hearts in all three ways. And for this, we are so grateful. And one request that as we leave today, now that the service is ended, let's just leave in silence and have a silent time as we leave the space. Thank you for being here tonight. Many blessings all.